Well, good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you here for the launch of our new resource for our sexual health social marketing strategy. And it's a comic book, and it's called Kiss Me Deadly. And this comic book was designed out of the need to educate sexually active youth and those considering becoming sexually active about the importance of protecting themselves against sexually transmitted infection, which we call STIs. It also, this comic book role models behavior related to healthy relationships and problem solving. What makes this comic book extremely relevant to the youth in this situation is it was designed in consultation the youth in the NWT. And so you will find when you review it, the language is quite candid, and it represents the realities that the youth are facing as they make some very difficult decisions while they're exploring their sexuality. So the storyline and the content of the comic book was focus tested with NWT communities, and primarily with youth, but others had input as well into the language and the design of the comic book. And once that was done, the storyline was written by an author and designed by an illustrator. And then it went back out again for focus testing to make sure it reflected what the youth wanted to see. So we feel this is very important so that the youth add decisions into what was being presented and will assist them to make healthy choices with respect to sexuality. And when you look at the comic book, you'll see that it really reflects the environment and the context of the youth in the NWT. The comic book came out of recommendations from the Sexual Health Steering Committee, which is really a part who oversee the STI strategy for the Department of Health and Social Services, and reflects the strategy is part of our Foundation for Change action plan. And this will be used to promote and educate around STIs and will allow Northerners to make better choices and prevent them from being exposed to sexually transmitted disease and prevent the transmission. There were many people involved with the development of this tool, and certainly the comic book was a joint effort with the youth communities here in the department, but also with partners from the Healthy Aboriginal Network. They actually helped us make this dream come true. And we got support privately from BHP Billiton. They did a donation of $25,000 to help get 10,000 copies of this comic book printed. So this, and also some of the funding, because when you look at this, it's a comic book. It looks like, you know, something that's relatively small, but it's a lot of work that goes into this. So we had funding through the Pan-Territorial Mass Media Fund as well to support this development. And without that partner support, this project wouldn't have been possible. Many of you around this table have heard us talk about the extremely high rates of STIs in the NWT. They're 12 times the national average. And we think the only way to make a difference is to provide tools to youth to make better decisions. But also, I think when we provide these tools and they're used in the way we are intending them to be used, it will, I think, the discussion. In the comic book, the grandpa, in part of the storyline, he talking about sex with youth. And he said it makes him blush as much as it would make the youth blush. But in his time, people didn't talk a lot about sex, but we need to talk. And this is what this is primarily aimed at, is stimulating conversation around sex and sexuality and making healthy choices. In general, the comic book is very non-traditional. And as I said, the language is quite candid, quite frank, and you know, I think it's going to stimulate a lot of discussion. But it's an alternative form of literacy for youth as well. And some people will not pick up a pamphlet, they will not pick up a brochure, but the comic book is very lively, it's very appealing, and a lot of research now saying, especially with boys, they really get engaged with this type of visual learning. So the comic book is now going to be distributed to all the health centers in the NWT, the youth centers through the public health office, but it's also going to be used in conjunction with a portion of a new curriculum for the education of youth in the NWT. And so we're part of the sexual health lesson plan that will be initiated in September of this year. This comic book will be available on the website and on the, as you can see, the Respect Yourself website, www.respectyourself.ca, and that is coming soon. And we think this will reach the youth in a format and language which will be familiar to them and will guide them in making better choices. And you know, that's what we can do, and that's what we've been told by the STI Steering Committee and from the youth themselves, that will make a difference in promoting discussion and healthy choices.